Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I say this every single year. Each year is just zooming past even faster than the previous. But if you have watched my videos before, then you'll see that throughout my vlogs I've been saying that I've been trying to read 23 books this year, or as many as I could, but it just so happens that I read 23 books and I'm very, very proud of myself because sometimes when I set myself challenges, I try and do them as well as possible, but sometimes I don't absorb the material as well as I would like to. But yes, I'm very, very proud of myself. And there were some really, really good books that I've read or listened to on audio book platforms. So you know what? I think that this video could potentially get very, very long, and so I'm going to try and speed through the main things that I've absorbed from each book, and yeah, let's get started. So the first one was Shade, and I'll insert pictures as well of the books, and I loved this. I haven't read a gothic novel in so long, and it was just so enchanting, and I was just so drawn in, and I would highly, highly recommend. And it didn't feel too forced. It didn't feel I don't know how to phrase it, but not too like young. I think it is addressed towards young adults. But yes, I really, really enjoyed that. Next one is Small Pleasures, and I really enjoyed this book. It is definitely something that I haven't usually gravitated towards, but it was also quite different from Shade, and so it was refreshing and kind of based off of a true story, but the whole book is fictional, and so I did really, really enjoy that, and not what I thought it would be, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed. Highly recommend. The third one that I read was This Delicious Death, and I have to say this was definitely targeted towards young adults. It had themes that kind of resembled COVID in some ways, and part of me was like, oh, this is quite interesting, and parts of me were also like, you know, I am kind of done with reading COVID material, and so I did feel a little bit disappointed, but also it wasn't a genre that I have read before. Like vampire fiction, young teen kind of books. Yeah, I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the other books. Next one that I read is Go as a River, and this book was so raw and just there is a bird. I don't know if you can hear it, I'm really sorry, but there's a bird on the roof. But yes, this was so raw and just heart-wrenching and lovely and so beautifully articulated. I really enjoyed reading this book. Out of all these books, I think this is the type of book that I usually read. It's kind of similar to A Thousand Splendid Suns, like Khaled Hosseini, that kind of fiction. And yeah, I was just mesmerized, and it was so well written, and I was just drawn in, and I couldn't not read it. Wait, couldn't not read it? I meant I couldn't put the book down. Yeah, that's what I meant. The Thursday Murder Club. Now, Richard Osman's books are really, really good. Like, I was able to read the first one, and the next two I listened to on an audiobook platform called BorrowBox, and I really loved it. So I think the way the characters are created, each one is fully fleshed, and you can really see the characters literally come to life off of the page. And I think when I listened to the other books, so The Man Who Died Twice and The Bullet That Missed, those were kind of the same similar vibe, of course, because it is the same Thursday Murder Club, trying to solve some mysteries and murders. Yeah, I think the characters were fully fleshed, and then on the audiobooks, the narration was so good that yeah, the whole story came alive, and definitely would recommend. I do like a murder mystery, so top notch. Next book I read was Meredith Alone. So this book was so interesting because after COVID and everything, when we were isolated in our own homes, um, of course we felt the freedom and just the and we were able to feel the freedom of going back out again and seeing friends and things. This book explores how Meredith chooses to just stay at home and is a little bit scared of going outside because of several different things that happened in the book and happened to her, and so it's her just overcoming challenges and trying to get back outdoors again, and it's so beautifully written. Like, you go along each chapter unraveling and picking apart reasons for why she is alone and why she prefers it that way. It explores some of the wonderful friendships she's able to make, and yeah, it's such a clever book, I think, in terms of not having too many characters to like overfill and complicate things, and yeah, and quite an easy read actually. I remember wanting to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading. Okay, next book is Clara and the Sun, and this, oh, so good. This has been on my list for so long, and I don't know why it took me so long to read it, but it's very good. In the whole scheme of things, like now with AI and robots and trying to create technology that is very human and kind of replicates us as humans, it's kind of scary, and Clara and the Sun is kind of able to help represent that, and I think it's just so clever the way it's written, even though I think at the time that it was written technology hadn't advanced that much, and so yeah, it's very clever, very clever, and a really interesting read. Okay, the next one is a book that I listened to on BorrowBox, Beautiful World, Where Are You, by Sally Rooney, and I have to say I've not actually read any of her previous books. I've only seen Normal People and Conversations with Friends. I've only seen those on BBC, and I do really enjoy those dramas. It is just everyday life almost, the way she writes, and I have to say I wasn't a massive fan of listening to this audio book. It would probably be a better read than listening to it. I don't know why, but I do struggle with listening to fiction and absorbing the material, because I think sometimes you do have to concentrate a lot more than you would do as if you were listening to like a biography, because when it is a biography, it is as if someone is talking to you, as if on a podcast or in conversation with one another, and I find that so much easier to just sink into and absorb the information compared to the fiction. Even though there are different voices with the narration, I did find this one a little bit harder to go along with, understand the story, but it is always about relationships and dynamics of friends, and just everyday life like normal people. It's almost like naturalism in book form rather than theatre, if that makes sense. The next thing that I listened to as well is the Satuma Complex, and I did listen to this one with the narration from Bob Mortimer, and I did really enjoy listening to his voice because it was so different to any of the audio books that I've listened to before. The way that the speech was and each character was represented, I did find this one a little bit tricky to, like I said with the fiction, to follow along with, but I did really enjoy it. But yeah, I think I'd have to read it physically. next time. The next book, it can be a little bit controversial, but it's The Secret, and I listened to this and I really enjoyed listening to it because it sounded like a podcast, and it gave really interesting advice. It is an interesting outlook on life and the world and how we are as people, as humans, as pieces of the earth almost, and how we can manifest and create our own abundance and create our own opportunities and think positively and optimistically to then absorb things that are positive and optimistic. And I do think that it is such an interesting thing to read and listen to because I am so interested in different people's ways of life and the ways they might think and believe in certain different things. And I do quite like the positive outlook, and kind of gives you more control of how you are able to absorb energies and release your own energy and create a more I guess fulfilling role in your life, and yeah, feel as if you are in more control than you might necessarily believe all the time. So it is definitely worth the read or listen, especially if you do believe in manifestation and creating your own abundance and that aspect of things. And if you do oppose those ideas, then it is also a really interesting thing to listen to and read, just to understand a little bit more how other people might view aspects of life. Okay, the next book I absolutely loved. My friend Gillian bought me this book. It's People We Meet on Vacation, and I have heard all over TikTok, or BookTok, just how wonderful this writer is. But my friend Gillian came over in the summer and actually gifted this to me for my birthday, and I read it so fast, like so fast. And it is just so scrumptious. The way it's written, it's so easy to read, but I think it is directed towards probably like young adults, late teens maybe, and it is just like rom-com, romance novel at its finest, and it is just yummy, so good, so good, and I read it so fast. Okay, the next thing that I listened to was Book Lovers. After reading People We Meet on Vacation, I was like, you know what, I want to listen to the audiobook of another book that she's written, and I thought that she does definitely thrive in this genre of romance novels, and the target audience loves it. I do love it. I love it so much, and can't really put my hand on it, but there is something that I love loads about just romance. Even when I'm watching TV and films, I love rom-coms, I love comedy, I love period dramas, just anything that just thrives off of romance and just meet cute. I love it. Like, so good all up, so good all up. And yeah, it did not disappoint. Okay, another book that I listened to is We Both Die at the End. And I have to say, when I listened to this on BorrowBox, I was not a fan of the narration. I'm just going to put it out there. I was not a fan of the narration. It did sound a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but a little bit boring and monotonous. And so it was quite difficult to, yeah, listen to, which is a shame. But I did enjoy the story. It was very, very cool to dive into a whole different world that obviously isn't our reality, and I think that was really, really interesting to kind of escape everyday life and dive into that. And yeah, it was definitely very different to what I usually read, and so maybe that was like me dipping my toe into a different genre and seeing whether I liked it or not. And I did, but I think I need to read a few more in that genre to be able to fully immerse myself and enjoy it a bit more, and And yeah, the more I try it and read it, the more I might enjoy it, maybe. So the next book that I read was actually PDF form from an actor and practitioner, and so I thought this was very, very interesting and important to level up your career as an actor. And it is Success Without the Sacrifice: 10 Steps for Actors. And this is so true, because a lot of the time it does feel like you are sacrificing things like time with family and friends, money towards certain different things, sometimes your sleep, your mental health, just to get parts. And a lot of the time we as actors keep going and going and going and forgetting to look after ourselves and nurture ourselves, as well as our talent and our skill. And sometimes it's just important to realise that it is a balance, and it is okay to say yes and no to things. And with these 10 steps to success without the sacrifice, it does ground you as a person, as an actor, and kind of remind you that it is not the be all and end all of things, and you are able to, yeah, remind yourself that you are living your life. Well, the sun's coming out. You're able to live your life whilst also being an actor. You are not solely an actor. You are, like I am, a daughter, a friend, a teacher, a lover of animals, a creative person, but also at the moment a retail assistant. I am so many more things, and not just an actor. And that is so important to remind yourself of, that it is not the be all and end all of things, and you are able to be a whole person rather than just one thing. And it was just so nice to remind myself of that. And yeah, the 10 steps were very, very helpful, very useful, and just reminds you that you can approach things holistically and not have to feel like you're sacrificing a lot of things for a certain outcome. Right, the next book, phenomenal. The Whalebone Theatre. Thick book, thick book. But I started listening to this on BorrowBox, and the narration was just beautiful. I think it's Olivia Vinnell, but her voice was just like melted chocolate. And like I said earlier, I did find it hard to just like delve in, especially with all the different like timestamps and chapters of the novel. And so luckily I was able to get the book of it, the physical copy of the book, to read. So I stopped listening to the audio book and started reading it. Such a thick book. Took me a little while, but it was really cool. It just goes through this amazing timeline of this family and the siblings, and it was such a lovely journey to be able to follow them throughout their life and their stages of different things that come their way. And yeah, it just felt very enriching and very, very cool as a book, if that made sense. Yeah, there's like romance, there's history to it, there's creativity, and just like the loving sibling bond and relationships that they were able to express and navigate around. And it was just, yeah, delightful. Okay, the next book that I listened to was, sometimes people think it's controversial. I think it was so good. It was so, so interesting. It is I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I was a massive, massive fan of iCarly when I was younger, and it's so interesting to know how child stars start and end up, how their career goes, how they were able to navigate it, whether they enjoyed it or not, whether it was their choice. And listening to Jeanette McCurdy on this audiobook was just so enlightening and so interesting to be brought into her life, and it kind of shattered the rose tinted glasses of being a child actor in Hollywood, in America. Um, and it is very brave and very, I don't know how to explain it, very brave of her to share, um, but also, yeah, enlightening. And everything on the surface is not necessarily what's happening inside and below the surface of people, and what you see on TV when you're little especially is not always the case for how the actors are behind the screen off stage. And it was so interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, loved the way it was written, the story telling of it, I guess through the voiceover and audio. um Phenomenal. I think everybody should listen to it because it was just so interesting, the different ranges of emotion and trying to balance out a career and family dynamic and work. Yeah, definitely recommend. Okay, the next book is Tell Me Everything, and I loved this. I loved it, and I didn't even know what I was going to expect. Like with a lot of these books, I read the blurb, I didn't look up what the book was about, and with this, I really enjoyed it. It is the rom-com yumminess that I do love, but with an LGBTQ plus side of things. It was very interesting. And it wasn't like thrown in your face, if that makes sense. It was so nicely melded in there, and yeah, stunning. I don't know what else to say to this book. It was really good read, quite easy read. Hi, editing Nicole here. I don't know why, but I missed this book out, and it is Olive, and I don't know why I missed it out in this video. I think there are just so many books that I wanted to speed through, and just missed it completely. But Olive was such a good read. I don't know why I missed it out, but it explores females and women, and how it's perceived that there are certain things that women should do in life, and if you go against the grain, go against the norm, how others might perceive it. It explores female relationships and friendships, and it's such a good book, and it was so well written. I didn't want to put it down. It was really easy to read as well, and definitely targeted towards women, females, just in probably their like late 20s to 30s, 40s and above, to explore like womanhood, adulthood, and trying to navigate life when social norms and society pressurizes women to do certain things. And it's exploring how we can do our own thing and navigate our own life, to cater towards what we want and what works for us. And it's definitely a good read. So don't know why I missed it out. Sorry. 3 more books to read. The next book is A Pocket Full of Happiness. So good. Richard E. Grant narrates this as well, and I listened to it on audiobook. I loved it because it sounded like he was talking to me, telling the story of his late wife, and it was just so lovely to listen to, how much love and admiration and warmth there was between the two, throughout their lives and careers. It's so interesting behind the actor's life, I guess, but also delving into that relationship that he had with her. I honestly didn't know what to expect from the book, but it was just so lovely to listen to, and it was almost like a memoir to her, and it was just beautiful. The next book is The Paper Palace. This was like loads of twists and turns. The only thing I could describe it or like compare it to is where the crawdad sings, and it's so good. It's so good. The ebbs and flows of it. I just wanted to read more and more and more. And I love how it was split into different parts of the book, and also the timeline of it. Very interesting to navigate and kind of pick apart and follow. Would recommend so highly. So good. So good. I was so drawn in. It was delicious. And then finally, the last book that I read, number 23, was The Sun and Her Flowers, and this is a poetry book, and I do have the physical copy, and I think, like the previous book, it was so nicely separated into chapters or segments or parts, with how a person grows and a flower grows, and it was just so, it was bold. It was so bold and so lovely to have something personal shared within the form of poetry. Sometimes novels can be too in your face or obvious, and so with the poetry of Rupi Kaur, it was just, yeah, so beautifully written. And some of them are like really short stanzas, others are a lot longer with the poems, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful way of seeing into her life, and her family dynamic, her relationships, and some really, really nice stanzas in there that I really enjoy. So that is it for my books that I've read in 2023. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being here, and if you have enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to see more. I'm hoping to be able to read 24 books next year, so we shall see how that plans out, how that works, and what books I will end up reading. I'm very, very excited. I thought that this would be quite a hard challenge. I don't know why, because before I didn't actually read as much as I wanted to, and this really like pushed myself to, yeah, read more. I need to like create a library or something in my room because of all the books I'm collecting. But yes, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. Bye!